think I remember interviewing you years ago, maybe like, oh my, I don't know.
It's been a while.
Maybe even 10. And look at all the books you've written since then.
I know, I've been busy.
You have. That's awesome. Well, welcome everybody. I'm Karla Akins, and I am interviewing tonight a wonderful budding author. She's more than budding. She is blooming now. Her name is J'nell
Ceiselski.
And is that a Czechoslovakian or
Polish?
Okay, I was going to say Polish, but wasn't sure.
It's Polish.
And that's your married name, correct?
Yes.
And was your maiden name Polish as well?
No, Myers. Much easier.
Yeah, a little easier. Still the same part of the world, though.
It's from over there.
Yes. So I have just been, when I went to your website to look at what you've been up to lately, I was blown away because I think the last time I interviewed you, I'm not sure you had even released your first book yet. I think it was
probably not
going to come out. I think you were in a contest or something. Mm-hmm. So why don't you tell me a little bit about your writing journey? We have a lot of people who would be interested in knowing how you got your start and what inspired you to start writing and how many books you have now.
So I have been writing since I was in college. So over 20 years now. And, I've always been a lifetime reader. And then when I got into high school and into college, I started reading books and thinking, I don't like how that ended. I don't like how that character did that. So I'm just going to write stories how I want them to go. And so I did. And I haven't stopped since. And that was like back in the early 2000s. Fast forward a couple of years, my husband and I got out of the military, and then I was able to write full time. And I think that's about the time when I became a client of Linda, and that's how we met through our agent. And that was 8 years ago, I think. And it took, I think it took about 5 years after getting a contract with an agent before I actually got my first publishing contract. And that was with a very small publisher called Lighthouse Publishing of the Carolinas. Mm-hmm. And it was a World War I story. And I published another one with them. And then I got picked up by Thomas Nelson, where I have now published 3 books with them, with more to come.
And I get to say I knew her when.
That's right.
It's so awesome. I remember, I think, if I'm thinking of the right person, I've interviewed a lot of people, but I think you had a couch or something, and that was like your happy place or something. Do you remember that? Am I talking about the right person?
I don't know, but when I started out, I did write on my couch.
Okay, so that must be, yes. And I remember that.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking what a talented writer you were. And I just knew, I spotted you. I knew right away that you were amazing. You've done so well. And I'm just so proud
thank you. I'm trying
to know you and your books. I love the covers of your books.
Oh, they're amazing.
They're delicious. And this last one that you just released in July, the Ice Swan, it is such a beautiful, and I will be putting pictures of your books in this video, but when I edit it, but just to show everyone, I don't have the actual book, but I do.
Oh, I have it.
Here she has. Look at that, everyone. Look at that. Paris, the Eiffel Tower, just the blue ice look of that cover is absolutely beautiful.
It's actually pearly when you hold it.
Is
like
it?
A pearl sheen to it.
And it never gets old, does it? Every time you open your new book. Oh my goodness.
No, I love it. That's one of my favorite things is getting that box of books and like, there they are.
I know. And you kind of have to hold that in your head when you're in the throes of that empty page.
Which I face daily.
So how many words do you write every day?
Oh, that is an interesting question because back before COVID, I was averaging about 3 pages a day, which was pretty good for me because my daughter had finally started full-time school with kindergarten, and I had, 6 hours to write. So I was able to bang out like 3 pages, and I was doing really good. And then COVID hit. And then I was lucky to get, a paragraph written. So that wasn't good. But now that school has started again, I'm trying to get back into the groove. So I'm hoping to get back to my 3 pages again a day.
Yes, I miss it. I miss being able to have some time to write. Mine isn't so much finding the time, but the brain space.
Yeah.
Because after teaching all day, it just is like, I can't think one more thought.
Oh, I get it. I was trying to write last year, when school was canceled and the kids were at home. I was full-time mom again, and I was trying to write at the same time. And that is a very difficult transition for your brain. It was a struggle.
Especially if you're an introvert and person that likes your, well, I'm an introvert. I don't know about you, but
that's definitely me.
I have introvert characteristics in that I need that sensory quiet time.
Yes.
To be able to think and to organize my thoughts, because I do have a touch of ADHD, and yes, it makes me good at chasing kids all day long, but it does not serve me well as someone who needs to organize their thoughts.
Yes, I get it. And it's hard for me because my daughter is an extrovert. So we have 2 battling needs here in the house. So it's hard, but.
Right. And yes, but I will say though, that book, there are 3 books growing inside of me that are going to burst forth one of these days.
Yes.
Because I'm just going to explode.
Yes.
So that's interesting that your routine did change. And a lot of people think that writers just, no matter what, they have the same routine, but that's just not true, because you have a personal life you have to attend to. And it's just like with everyone else.
They need to be fed, they expect to have a house clean.
It's so daily. I don't understand.
I know. You're so needy.
They expect it every day.
Every day they need food. I don't know.
Where does that even come from?
I know.
So where do you get your ideas? Because I was reading about this, you write historical novels, which I love historical. That's my favorite. And 1917 Petrograd, or is it Petrograd? How do you say that correctly?
Well, I can't do the Russian, so in my head it's like Petrograd.
Okay. And fleeing the murderous flames of the Russian Revolution, Princess Svetlana Dulsky. I just love that. It just, it's just the whole, it just has so much delicious feelings in your mouth when you read that. And then she goes to Paris, and the city is buckling under the weight of the Great War and the Bolsheviks. Who doesn't like to say the word Bolshevik?
No, it's so menacing.
It is. And I come from Russian ancestry. I have some Russian ancestry. And so I'm definitely going to be reading this one with great curiosity. But my Russian ancestry, though, comes from my German ancestors moving up into the Russian area, and then they fled to the United States for religious freedom. So they're like the Anabaptist of the history that came over and settled in Germantown in Pennsylvania. So
there's a lot happening over there in that part of the world. That's for sure.
There was and is. And tell me, how did you choose which part of the world to study? Because I'm seeing different parts of the world in your books here.
Yes.
And go ahead.
Usually my interests take me to England, and in particular Scotland, and a little bit in France too, because that's where a lot of the wars happened, was over there. But for each book, I like to try something different. I like to challenge myself. I don't want to write the same thing over and over. So I was watching a Russian miniseries called Road to Calvary, and it's about these two Russian aristocratic sisters, and the Russian Revolution breaks out. And so it follows these two sisters as they fall from their place in society as, aristocrats, and how they had to survive, basically, and following their love life and just themselves and how they survive and whatnot. And I thought, that's really interesting. I never knew anything about or even thought about what happened to the aristocrats. I knew about the Romanovs, as I think we all do. And, I was familiar enough with Lenin and the communists and stuff, but I never gave thought to what happened to the aristocrats. They were hunted down and killed because of who they were, and many of them ended up fleeing. And I thought, that's interesting. I want to write a story about that. So I did.
That is. And, there are so many stories, even now that, the things that are going on in Afghanistan. I'm thinking about the women over there, their stories, and how their stories are going to change so much. But there are so many, so often we think that what we're going through is so unique and so isolating, but really, we all have a story. And this one where your protagonist ends up in a marriage of convenience. And, sometimes after so many years of marriage, it can feel like that. I mean, we have those feelings where if he makes that noise one more time,
if he leaves that sock out again on the floor.
Yes. But I love these because I always say this, I said this a long time ago. I didn't realize, I used to kind of poo-poo fiction. I used to kind of look down my nose at fiction because I didn't understand how hard it was to write it till I tried to write it. And it's a lot harder to write than nonfiction because I've written both. And the art that is involved in it. But it was a fiction book that during a really tough time in my life, that the character in that book, and it was it wasn't even a profound book. It was about a prairie woman had to marry this logger dude that she didn't love, but she had to marry him because of whatever reason. And I was so impressed with her fortitude that I really internalized her character, as far, not the character like the character, but I mean her strength of character.
Yes.
I internalized that somehow and was inspired by it. And even though our characters are not real people, all the emotion and all the things that they're going through are things that people deal with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always put a lot of my own emotions and thoughts into these characters. I think you have to do that as a writer. You have to get to know these people and make them human. So that way they come off on the page and readers can be like, I know what that feels like. I've been through that, or I understand why they did that because I've done that. So yeah, they have to be real for us to connect to.
They have to be relatable, right? And why Christian fiction?
Well, that's what I started off writing with. It felt the most natural to me because, as a Christian, that was my world point of view. And those are the type of stories that I wanted to tell. I didn't want to go down the sex, drugs, and rock and roll route. That's just not how I write. I have in my latest book started to go a little bit more mainstream. Like they're still clean reads, but
sure,
they're not
preachy.
Really in the inspirational.
None of yours were preachy. That's right. What I mean. But yeah, I think there's a real need for that though.
Right. But even though it is more mainstream now, it still has the Christian world point of view because that's my point of view. And it's going to come through in these characters, even though I don't come out and say it in a sermon or something. And I think that's important. We still need those messages no matter what genre you're writing in.
So what does your family think of your writing career?
Oh, they're proud. I mean, my husband is my biggest supporter. He gives me all the time I need to write. He's like, you don't need to do laundry during the day. That is your time to write. You need to get in there and write. And I will watch the kid on the weekend, whatever it is you need, get in there and write. So I'm really, really thankful that he supports me so much. And now I'm going to get all teary-eyed, but I've heard a lot of stories where families are not supportive, and mine are. Like my daughter, she's 7, and she'll go to school and she'll tell her teachers, my mom writes books, you need to go buy them.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, and she started writing her own stories and stuff, and she asked for advice and things. So they're incredibly proud of me, and it means the world to me. I couldn't do it without them.
No, it really does. We don't write a book alone. No book is written alone.
There's
so many people that go into that, and you cannot be a Lone Ranger if you want to be published. There's no such thing as a Lone Ranger writer, because it takes a team. I mean, yeah, we're kind of the backbone of the whole thing, but it definitely don't get there. And we need to keep that humility in our hearts that, this is definitely a team effort when it's all said and done, for sure.
It is.
Yeah, really, really, truly is. And my kids are kind of, how should I say, cynical about it. They'll go, my one son says, I'm putting it on your tombstone, Mom. I have a deadline.
Oh, no.
I mean, it takes all kinds, because that just motivates me more. Fine.
Right?
Just tell me I can't do it.
Right? I'll prove you wrong. I'll get out there and do it.
And it takes all kinds, and God knows exactly what we need. He knows he's always up to something good, and he has a plan. So what is your advice to someone who's maybe a junior, senior in high school, or a college student, and is wanting to be a published author in this very different market than what we grew up with? And they've grown up with a different market. This is all normal to them. So what would be your advice to them?
I would say that if this is truly your passion, then never give up. This is a hard industry, and it is not for the faint of heart. I mean, you're going to get rejected. You're going to get readers saying bad things about you. It's going to happen. And you just have to say, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and hopefully somebody out there will like it. And a lot of people say, oh, I want to write a book, and then they never finish it. But if this is your passion, don't give up. Keep doing it. Keep working at it. Keep learning everything you possibly can about the craft. It's constantly changing. And the more you know, the better you're going to get. The same with if you read more and you read different kinds of things, it'll keep your imagination fresh. And be nice, because this is a small industry and word gets around fast. And if you are difficult to work with, it's going to get around and nobody's going to want to work with you. So,
right. And you have to be teachable. You have to be, the more teachable you are, the more people are going to love working with you. And it is a very, very tough industry. And you just have to know that, this is what I'm going to do. And I always say that it's not about us at all. It's about someone needs to hear what you have to say, that God has put on your heart for you to say. And you have a responsibility to share that. So don't quit, right?
Yep, that's right.
Keep putting that bullhorn to your lips, which is actually your fingers to the keyboard, or whatever it is you write with. Don't quit writing. And there's actually, this is really a great time to be an artist or a writer, because you have so many different ways you can do it. You don't have to necessarily do it in a book. There's lots and lots of platforms. So what about blogging? Are you blogging anymore, or is that kind of gone by the wayside?
No, I only did blogging because I was told that you have to do this, but this was years ago when it was being pushed, but now it's not really pushed to do it anymore unless you're a blogger and that's what you want to do. Blogging is not for me. I'm a writer. I am much happier sitting here writing my little stories. That's it. So no, I don't blog, but I do. I'm on Facebook and Instagram
Which
because you
wasn't
have to have a
around years
platform.
ago when blogging started. None of that was around.
Exactly. But now everybody has to have a platform. So you have to have your presence out there, and you have to start building it before you even get a book out there. And that's another hard thing about this industry, and is something that we all have to do, and which is hard for us introverts when we just want to sit here and write our stories. We're expecting to go on Instagram and post what I ate for breakfast this morning. Like, who cares?
Right. But the more you get known, the more your readers kind of want to make that emotional connection with you, don't you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people reach out to me that way, like people I would never have talked to or never have met. I just read your book. I loved it. Thank you. My family are from Russia. They fled the revolution. Like, I've had people email me about that. And that was never my intention when I sat down to write this story. And yet, I get emails about it. So that's really cool that people reach out to me. And I always reply to people unless I miss you. And then that's an accident, but I always try to. So yeah, you have to put yourself out there and let people get to know you, because when you get to know someone, you want to keep interacting with them, and then hopefully keep reading their books. And, so yeah.
Yeah, that's the neat part, though. That is a really cool part of it that we didn't have a long time ago. When I was growing up, I had no way to reach out to the people whose books I wrote.
Maybe you wrote them a letter, like on actual.
Maybe I did, but I don't remember doing that. I think because most of my authors were dead that I read.
Dear Charles Dickens. Oh, wait.
Yes. And I thought that was so fascinating what you said, that you had read some books that you didn't like the ending of them. So you said you were going to, and that's exactly what Mark Twain said to do, right? Doesn't he have a quote that says, if there's a book, if someone has not written the story you like, then you need to write that story.
Oh yeah, that was
I thought that was
Mark Twain. It was somebody. It was a lady, and her name slips my mind. But that's actually my favorite quote.
Oh, is it?
It is,
and we both can't remember it.
I can't remember her name.
I'll pop it up there. If you think of it, just email it to me, and I'll pop it up there.
I love that quote because it's so empowering.
It really, really is, and that is one clue I would like to share with young budding writers, is that write what you love to read. If that's the kind of stuff you love to read and no one's written that particular thing yet, then that's what you should try to write.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not a race. We all write at a different pace and a different time. And I think a timing of a book is super important, because you never, so many things have to fall into the right place for a person to hold that book at the right time in their life, for it to speak to them what God wants to say to them at the time. But that's just how God is. He's quantum. He's, it's quantum entanglement. He is not limited by anything, but yet he orchestrates things so perfectly. So what is the most valuable thing that you've learned as a writer, that you think?
I've learned a lot of things. I have learned to be humble. It's, humility is not an easy trait, I think, for anybody, but this industry will humble you big time. And when you're around other creative people and you see what they're able to create, you think, wow, that's amazing. I want to do that. And, and when readers reach out to you, this meant so much to me. And it's like, wow, I just wrote that because I thought it was a fun idea, but it touched somebody in a way that I didn't expect. And that is incredibly humbling. And yeah, it is how far some of these stories can reach, that, here I am just sitting in my little room in front of my computer, and then people all over the world are going to read this story and take something out of it. I think it's easy to get an ego out of that, but I try to keep humble. I want people to appreciate, that's not the right word. to get value out of what I'm writing. And I don't mean that in like a prideful way.
No, I
But
know
hopefully
what you're saying.
what I'm doing will be meaningful to someone out there.
Right. Oh, it's a crazy world we're living in, and we need some good romance and good books to read and good escapes.
Yes.
You know, there we've got to keep our thoughts on those things that are lovely and true and wonderful. And I'm so glad that you're out there with your books and your voice. And I couldn't be prouder to know you and more honored to interview you today.
Well, thank you.
And if everybody be sure and check out all the information below the video. I will be posting all of J'nell's contact info, all of her social media, her book links, and her website. And you are missing out on a treat if you do not read her books, because I promise they are a great escape. And don't we all need a great escape right now? Thank you so much, J'nell.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure, and I can't wait to see what you do next.
It's coming.